I remember walking through Tahrir Square just weeks after Mubarak had left power. We have said that we shared the democratic aspirations and criticisms of the Morsy government that led millions of Egyptians into the streets on June 30th. We've also said that the circumstances of the former president's removal were a coup. And we have said that we cannot expect Egypt or any other country to abide by its laws if we do not abide by ours in the United States.
Reza Sayah was at that news conference. He joins me now live from Cairo with more. Well, any reaction from the government to John McCain calling what happened a coup?
Well, I think that's a message that the interim government is not going to like, but it was a part of a number of statements that were very open and frank by Senators John McCain and Lindsey Graham. We can tell you they didn't come here and solve this conflict in a matter of 24 hours, but perhaps they did generate some optimism and cool things down, and maybe that's not such a bad thing in this highly charged and tumultuous environment. Clearly, they wanted to deliver a message to the military-backed interim government and the Egyptian people. Parts of their message were crystal clear, like the message that this was a coup, a message that many people here are not going to like. Other parts of their message were not so clear and vague, and that's not unusual when politicians and diplomats make visits like this. Briefly, let's talk to you about the messages that were clear. Senators McCain and Graham said Egypt is a critical ally for the U.S. They say they want to support Egypt, but they said they can only support Egypt if this is a genuine, viable, peaceful democracy, and they suggested that perhaps there's a danger here of this government veering off course and heading towards a path away from democracy. They said the only way to get back on track is for both sides to stop the violence, to sit down, negotiate, reconcile, and they said the only way that's going to happen is if some of these Muslim Brotherhood leaders are going to be released from jail. And you get the impression, Hala, that in some of these meetings with the interim government, they suggested the government should at least release some of these Muslim Brotherhood leaders, but they were very careful not to create the impression that they were here to order people around or preach. They said, we're just here as friends of Egypt, and our aim is to see a smooth transition to democracy. And of course, what's unclear is the outcome. Were they able to convince this military-backed interim government to make concessions? Were they able to convince the Brotherhood to make some concessions? We just don't know that at this point.
And we know they met with General Sisi, but any plans to meet with Muslim Brotherhood? We know Catherine Ashton, the EU Foreign Affairs chief, did meet with Mohamed Morsy. Any plans on that front?
They're meeting with everyone. They're meeting with Brotherhood leaders, the members of the Freedom and Justice Party, members of the interim government, and they said they're going to sit down and make their position clear without preaching. But the dilemma here remains the same, and this is the standoff where these both sides have put themselves in a very difficult position. Of course, the Muslim Brotherhood's position is they're not going to move forward until Mr. Morsy is reinstated as president. That's a non-starter for this military-backed government. So the question is, are they prepared? Is either side prepared to make any kinds of concessions? That seems to be the only way that they can reach a resolution.